Good evening. I'm Phil Galdston, songwriter and producer, and I'm proud to say, live from New York, it's the launch of Music Answers. To start off our program, please welcome composer and band leader, Schneider.
Good evening and welcome to the launch of Music Answers, a campaign that unites music writers, performers, and producers. Whether you're here with us in New York or watching on the internet, you're probably as frustrated as I am with the state of the music business. Those of us who make music creation our life's work know that the current music business is no longer a sustainable economy, and many of the largest corporations who exert the strongest control over our livelihoods seem to overlook the simple fact that they are, in the end, dependent on us and our work. Without us, that is the people who write, perform, and produce the music business would not exist. The impact of music streaming services on music creators has been truly dramatic. Tens of thousands of plays on Spotify or Pandora translate to royalty payments in pennies, not dollars, while inversely the valuations of these companies go through the roof by the billions to the benefit of corporations and their shareholders. Clearly, with the many pressure points within our ailing music economy, these pressure points are taking their toll. Just witness the U.S. Copyright Office's 2015 Music Marketplace report. It stated that 80% of Nashville songwriters have left the profession since 2000. And then there is the ongoing scourge of illegal uploads of our music on sites like YouTube and others that don't properly protect the rights of music creators. I've testified to Congress on the endless whack-a-mole game of takedowns that make our recordings just another easy moneymaker for the streaming sites. And conveniently, the law doesn't hold these sites accountable, even though the sites intentionally make it easy for users to upload music they don't own. And to add insult to injury, the sites make it difficult, if not impossible, for the creator to take that unauthorized material down and keep it down. And these companies blatantly protect the identity of the infringer. But in the case of YouTube, they expose the identity of and demonize the musician who has exercised her constitutional right to protect her work. In the face of all these problems, Music Answers offers a path forward. That path requires that all music writers, performers, producers, students, and professionals unite so that our collective voice can be heard. This country needs a vital culture of creativity. We must not allow our promising musicians to be discouraged from a career in music before they even start. It's tragic to see so many outstanding musicians leaving our profession because it's become nearly impossible to make a living. Our voice needs to be heard. It needs to be heard by the publishers and record companies that music creators have entrusted to represent their economic interests. Our voice needs to be heard by the big corporations that purposely devalue our work so they can use it to amass data and sell ads. Our voice needs to be heard by the fans of our music who haven't been told the truth about how certain business models are choking us. And our voice needs to be heard loud and clear in Washington so that laws and regulations can be changed to protect our rights. It's time that we stand together, tell it like it is, and take our place at the table. Music Answers is a constructive campaign that will allow our voice to be heard in each and all of these ways. I'm proud to have played a part in its creation, and I hope that every songwriter every composer, every producer, every studio musician, every music student aspiring to make a living, every recording artist, every music publisher, and every record label will endorse and support it. To tell you a little bit more about Music Answers, let me introduce singer-songwriter Tom Chapin.
Thank you, Maria, and good evening, everyone. I'm a songwriter. It's what I do. While it's not the easiest profession in which to make a living, until now, it's at least been possible. With enough talent, tremendous amount of hard work, and some luck, thousands of individual music writers, performers, and producers have been able to have careers in music. But the dark clouds Maria listed are hanging over our community now. They're making it very difficult for those of us starting out to see how we can ever receive just compensation for our work. And for those of us who have been at it a while, have seen the new system decimate our livelihoods. I have actually received royalty checks from these big companies that are for 1 penny. I would have framed them if they weren't so sad. And that's where this campaign comes in. Music Answers has 3 main objectives. 1, to unify music creators around a set of basic principles that we're calling upon the music industry to adhere to. 2, to create ongoing educational materials, like the set of short films you'll find on the Music Answers website, that will allow each of us to understand the incredibly complex legal and business issues involved, and to use that knowledge to better advocate for our rights. 3, to have our united voice directly heard by our lawmakers who are looking at changing copyright laws. The big data companies have sent armies of lobbyists to Washington, D.C., and the only way we can ever be heard above them is to band together and to speak with one united voice. Those are the main objectives of our campaign. Now, here to read the Music Answers Declaration of Principles is Tiger Darrow, a singer-songwriter from the new generation. Please welcome Tiger.
Thank you. Good evening. Music has never been more popular, more accessible, or more valuable. Billions of people around the globe rely on it to enhance their lives. Overall revenue from the use of music has increased exponentially, but only a tiny fraction is finding its way to the people who actually create the music and recordings. The business of music has become unsustainable for the vast majority of those who make it. Therefore, we come together as music writers, performers, and producers to assert our right to just compensation for the use of our work in all media. We oppose the practices of video streaming services, internet service providers, and other businesses that appropriate the value of our music in order to make huge profits selling advertising and data. We believe that like uses of music should be treated alike, that the work of music writers, performers, and producers deserves equal treatment and equal protection in all media. We require complete transparency regarding the use of our work, including the terms of and revenue from the business arrangements between digital music services, video streaming sites, and the publishers, record labels, and other entities that administer our work. We call for an immediate end to the discriminatory and secret practices in which digital music services, vertically integrated music corporations, and others engage. These include unallocated advances, breakage, equity stakes, side and non-disclosure agreements, and black box payments. We support the report of the United States Copyright Office, which calls for a more equitable, efficient, and transparent music marketplace. We respectfully request that our elected representatives swiftly adopt legislation in harmony with the spirit of recommendations of the Copyright Office report. And we invite all those interested in music and its future to endorse this campaign. And now, a short film that illustrates the Music Answers campaign.
What's wrong with the music business today? For one thing, it's hard to make a living. Unless you're a big star, making enough money to support a career is really, really hard. If you're a songwriter, you get pennies from streaming, even if your song is played tens of thousands of times. And if you're a performer, unlike in the rest of the world, you don't get paid anything when your record gets broadcast on radio or television. Nothing. And if you're a producer, you get nothing from streaming and nothing from broadcast. And if that's not bad enough, the video websites that stream our music billions of times a day are paying almost nothing for it, to any of us. If you're a songwriter, composer, performer, or producer, or any combination, you've seen your check shrink dramatically over the past few years. There's just one pie of money, and it's not big enough to support all of us in the music business. But wait a minute, how big is that pie anyway? We've been told it's this big, but actually, we found out that's not true. It's actually this big. So where's the rest of the pie going, and why is it so hard to find out? Make no mistake, a tremendous amount of money is staying in the pockets of the giant tech companies that appropriate the value of our music to sell advertising and gather data. They pay us outrageously low rates, profit from the illegal use of our music, and make it impossible for us to find out just how much money our music is generating. That has to change. But there's also a lot of money being made by giant, vertically integrated music corporations that own or administer the rights to our music. You see, those corporations have found ways to earn boatloads of money, but keep it for themselves instead of paying us our share. For instance, a music company might make a deal with a streaming service to play records and songs owned or controlled by the music company. The music company gets a giant cash advance, but the recording artists, producers, and songwriters like us may or may not get a portion of that money. And if we do, it'll only be over time as our music is used. Anything left over stays in the pockets of the music company. Then they make another deal, a side deal, for the music company to buy stock in the streaming service at a big discount. That way, the music company can make a fortune when the streaming service goes public, but they don't have to share any of that money with us. And to make sure we don't learn just how much of the pie they're grabbing and how little we're receiving, the music companies and the streaming services make one more deal, a secret deal called a non-disclosure agreement. That means no one is allowed to talk about or see any of these deals ever, a complete lack of transparency. So how big is that pie again? If you factor in the extremely low royalties, the secret advances, secret stock sales, and lack of transparency, the pie turns out to be this big. We want America to have a healthy music creating community and a strong music business. So we're coming together to make sure we're all getting our fair share of the whole pie. We're the creators, producers, and performers who make the whole music business possible. We support changes in the copyright law recommended by the Copyright Office, and we're fighting for our rights and for a stronger music business for all. Come join us for music's future.
Singer-songwriter Rebecca Jordan.
Thank you. I am so excited and proud to be part of the launch of Music Answers. A lot of smart, talented, and passionate people have been working on this for quite some time. But let's be clear, as exciting as this moment is, the hard and the meaningful work is just beginning. Now, Maria reminded us of all the problems we're facing, and Tiger and Tom told you about the objectives of our campaign and the principles on which it's based. But you're probably wondering, what do we do now? What can I do? Well, the first thing you can do is add your name to the growing and remarkable list of your colleagues who have signed the Music Answers Declaration of Principles. You can take this important step by going to musicanswers.org and clicking the declaration button. Anyone who signs the declaration at the Music Answers site will be listed as a supporter of this campaign. The next step, get the word out. Use your laptop, your tablet, your phone, your voice, and let your colleagues, your collaborators, and your friends know that they can join this open door campaign. Let them know that tonight's entire presentation will be posted on the Music Answers website, where they can log on, they can learn, and they can share. And please visit the Music Answers Facebook page and like it. And like it. And then use the hashtag Music Answers on Twitter and throughout your social media. Sitting on the sidelines and just hoping for change is no longer an option. If each one of us reaches out to 5 people that we know in the music community, songwriters, producers, composers, publishers, or recording artists, and if each one of them reaches out to 5 more people, we're going to connect a whole lot of music creators and make Music Answers a powerful force for change. Now please know that Music Answers is not sponsored by, nor is it a subsidiary of, any other organization. So there is no outside money, no sugar daddy. There is not. In fact, the entire effort has been funded by many of the music creators who are here tonight. This is a good old-fashioned grassroots campaign. A campaign created by our community for our community. Now we're up against some big businesses and powerful entities. A seat for music creators at the negotiating table is just not in their interests. They need us to be divided. That is why, at long last, it's time we unite. And now, to wrap things up, let me introduce one of the founders of the Council of Music Creators and the Music Answers campaign. I almost said singer, not really a singer, sometimes, but really excellent as a songwriter and producer, Phil Galdston.
Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. And thanks to all of you here in New York, to our colleagues watching the webcast, to Maria, Tom, Tiger, and Rebecca for so clearly explaining what Music Answers is about and what our landmark campaign aims to accomplish. And thanks to the many collaborators who contributed to this not-for-profit volunteer effort. It's taken a tremendous amount of time and energy to launch Music Answers, kind of the way it takes to launch and maintain a career creating music. And of course, that's why music isn't and can never be free. Because to make music costs us, its creators, our time, talent, training, technology, everything we have. And that total investment means that, 1, we have the right to give or not our permission for our work to be used and to determine the circumstances under which it's used. And 2, that we have the right to fight for a reasonable return on that investment. And let's be clear, Music Answers is not about whining. It's not about the beauty or the nobility of making music or the sacrifice it takes to create it, true as all of that may be. It's about the economic relationship between those who create music and those who use it to drive their businesses. The heart of that economic relationship is supply and demand. But for far too long, we permitted this economic relationship to be confused and complicated by an outdated patchwork of regulations and legislation, by questionable business practices, and by a campaign of disinformation that obscures just who is benefiting from all the revenue generated by our music. So let's look at the basics. Writers, performers, and producers create the supply. Businesses have the demand. The fact is that those businesses need the music we make. And as the Copyright Office report states, the businesses that sell data and advertising on the back of our music are appropriating its value to make money without paying us a share commensurate with the role of our work in making that money. For too long, writers, performers, and producers have permitted those who need our work to use our different roles, rights, and royalty streams to pit us against each other, to divide us. But the truth is that our common interests far outweigh any that may divide us. And our common interests are exactly what Music Answers is fighting for. For too long, we've let others speak for us. But while our interests often converge with businesses that administer our work and some organizations that profess to speak for us, our interests only converge until they don't. And when they don't, at a moment like now, our interests diverge. And then we have no choice but to speak for ourselves, to come together, work together, and speak together as one. Tonight, you've heard some strong calls for action, calls that will only grow louder in the days, weeks, and months to come as many more music creators join us. And while we must be strong and clear, please keep in mind that Music Answers is an inclusive campaign. And let's be clear that not all record companies, publishers, film studios, and others engage in the practices we've illuminated. In fact, many, if not most of them, do business fairly and honorably. Many of them have told us they support the principles of Music Answers. And we'd like nothing more than for all of them, large and small, to endorse what we believe is a blueprint for the future. As we close tonight's unprecedented launch, we want to be clear that we don't see Music Answers as the only answer, rather as part of the solution. Music creators are always ready to collaborate, to forge alliances, and to cooperate in the all-important search for a comprehensive solution for all concerned. In that spirit, we're proud to be strong supporters of other initiatives, like Fair Trade Music. And we're thrilled that our campaign begins with support from the Meta Alliance, SONA, which is the Songwriters of North America, the Screen Composers Guild of Canada, the Songwriters Association of Canada, and the Council of Music Creators, as well as a remarkable roster of individual music creators representing a remarkable range of all genres and levels, including Grammy, Emmy, Tony, Oscar, Peabody, and Pulitzer Prize winners and nominees. And that's just the beginning. We welcome all sincere allies. Everyone with us tonight knows that there is much work to be done, many details to be explored and thrashed out, and a lot of give and take to be negotiated. Let's acknowledge that this is complicated stuff, that there are problems that more powerfully affect some of our coalition members than others. The egregious work for hire issues faced by composers for film, TV, and other visual media are but one example. But while the devil may be in the details, when we're talking about the future of music, it's essential that we, the writers, performers, and producers whose work makes a music business possible, begin with the universal, insist that we decide who represents us and how, and stay united. Only then will we be able to claim our rightful seat at the negotiated table. So wherever you are in the world tonight, we thank you for joining us. We urge you to immediately take that first and most important step of adding your name, your credibility, your authority as a music creator to the list of signatories to our Declaration of Principles. We ask you to please spread the word, and we invite you to remember that from now on, anytime there are questions about our rights, our work, and our future, we're united to say that music answers. Thank you, and good night.